Hello, and welcome to Paranormal in Pennsylvania,
where we discuss history and hauntings.
Today we're going to be traveling to a town called Kindersville, Pennsylvania, to Bucksville House. I'm Erica.
And I'm Sarah.
Let's get into it. So, like I said, this is located in Kindersville, PA, so it's about a half an hour from Allentown, basically.
Okay.
Towards us.
Yeah.
And it's a restored colonial era inn. Barb and Joe are the innkeepers.
Aww.
I know, the names are like
They
so
sound
cute.
so sweet.
Yes. They actually, so something that Barb had noted was that they don't really advertise the hauntings that occur here. They only really speak on it if someone asks, just so people feel safe in the house, which makes sense.
Yeah, that's kind of like Kennesaw House. They didn't really want to talk to us about the haunting.
Yeah. She said that she's always very hesitant when somebody asks about it. So in the beginning, the oldest room, built in 1795, was originally part of a wheelwright shop. So that was the first house that this was, the first purpose this house had. And then in 1830, Nicholas Buck, who actually did found the wheelwright shop, him and his son decided to reopen it as a hotel and turned it into like an 18th century stone farmhouse inn.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and really cool, actually. So the upstairs living room area back then was actually a bar and was like the popular watering hole. So it was really popular in the town.
Good for them.
Yes, and a speakeasy during Prohibition, which I thought was interesting.
That's cool. I want to get into finding more speakeasies. I just think that it's such a cool concept.
Yeah, they're all so interesting, and the drinks they have are so unique.
Yeah.
It's really cool. So in modern times, there are 5 rooms that are there. They call them the Gold Room, the Blue Room, the Nicholas Buck Room, the Attic Suite, and Sarah's Room.
Is it spelled with an H?
No, it's not.
Oh my god, it's not. I gotta go.
Literally one of my favorite I literally, in my notes, have spelled like Sarah without the H.
It's rare.
Yes. So that is really most of the history that I could find. I don't think anything crazy occurred here. I think this is one of those smaller inns that just has a very tiny history, but somehow over the years has just held on to a lot of ghosts.
Yeah, I mean, Pennsylvania is so old as a state. And before it was a state, the Native Americans were in this region as well. So their history goes back centuries.
Yes, exactly. So the hauntings, I mean, we can just get right into it, which is great.
Yeah.
I found 2 documentaries that I'll talk about. The first one was America's Haunted Inn. They did a special on this place. And the second one was actually from Delmarva Historic Haunts. It's a group of paranormal investigators. There's like 10 of them, and they go to different spots.
Where is Delmarva? Isn't that a place in Florida?
To be honest, it may be. I didn't actually look that up.
That's why I was making a face. Like,
let me look
wonder
it up
how
really
they stumbled
quickly,
across this.
I'm curious now. I think I assumed they were in Pennsylvania.
I mean, there can be multiple Delmarvas.
True.
Or maybe they had some
Delaware.
Delaware. Okay.
So pretty close.
Yeah, that's close.
So yes, they also did a walkthrough, which was super interesting to read through. I really like hearing the stories of paranormal investigators that are like smaller.
Yeah.
Walking through. Just in general, so things that I found online, maids are said to have been tidying up rooms. So while people are still in them, people will walk in and start tidying up.
Oh my gosh. I thought you were just like, while the maids are tidying the rooms, but I get it now. No, like you're just in your room and a ghost maid shows up.
Yes. And pictures. They have a lot of pictures. The pictures have captured things like ghostly ribbons. A lot of them are pink and red and yellow.
Weird.
I don't know the significance of the colors, but really it was a lot of pinks.
I've never heard of that as a concept. Like, I've heard of ghost orbs, shadow figures, but never ghostly ribbons.
Yes. So I saw a couple like that. Mist has been shown in pictures, and not like things that are on top of the photographs, but like in the picture. You know what I mean?
Like there's depth to it.
Yes. And items have been moved from certain places. There have also been multiple reports from prior guests of not just moans or orbs in pictures, but like I said before, legitimate people coming in.
That is terrifying. That's like, have you seen the movie 1408?
I haven't.
Okay. He's staying in a haunted hotel room. That's the concept. And like part of it is he'll just see people. And I can't imagine how unnerving that would be.
Yes.
Like, because I wonder if you can interact with them. Like if I saw a maid walk into a hotel room that I was in, I would be like, excuse me. And I wonder if they respond or if they just keep like, almost as if they're running on a tape or something, you know?
Yeah, actually, the running on the tape thing is really interesting. I did not think about that, but yeah, they just do the same thing over and over again.
Right.
It would be interesting to see. I do have a specific story about the maids, so we'll get into it a little bit. But so that's just like the general thing. So, you know, the normal stuff. Seeing things in photos, moans, orbs in pictures, things like that. So America's Haunted Inn, that documentary was super interesting because they took a lot of dialogue from Barbara, one of the innkeepers. Yeah. And I really paid attention to her stories because she had a ton of them.
Oh, man.
So the first experience they ever had, so they had bought this inn, they were renovating it to kind of keep up with modern times. And she said the first thing they ever experienced, there was a checkerboard up in one of the bedrooms. And it had been played, like it wasn't reset for a new game, but they're busy renovating. So they're like, we're not going to reset this. We don't have time. Nobody was coming in and out. You know, they're doing renovations. Nobody's staying there. And one day she just went up to the room and the board was reset for a game.
Oh my gosh. And
she went down to Joe, her husband, and was like, when did you find time to like reset this checkerboard? And he was like, I didn't. I don't know what you're talking about.
That's creepy. It's like the ghost is like, this is messy. Fix it.
Yes. Yeah. And so that was the first time that both of them were like, ooh, maybe something's here.
Oh my gosh, and they just bought it.
Yes. Had no idea what they were getting into, which to be honest makes me wonder if the other owners were like, we've had enough.
Yeah, that's true.
In the beginning, there was a guest who had actually never stayed in a bed and breakfast before. So this was the first time that she and her husband had stayed. She was in one of the rooms upstairs. I didn't actually catch the specific room, but she was in one of them. And her husband was a smoker. So in the morning, he went outside, wanted to take a smoke. And she was like, I'm still tired, so I'm going to stay in bed. And two ladies just came into the room and said, hey, we're here to tidy up.
No.
And the guest was actually slightly upset because she wasn't out of bed yet.
Right.
Her suitcase was open. She was like not ready for the room to be cleaned.
I would be upset.
Yes. So I don't know if she tried to engage with them, but they did speak to her. They did say hey, we're here to tidy up.
That's freaky.
Right. And so she said that one of them walked to the quilt rack to adjust the quilts, and the second started tugging on the bedding and straightening up the covers on her bed like while she was in it.
That makes me think that it is like running on a tape.
Yes.
You know, or like replaying the same actions day after day.
Right. And then the last thing was that she just noticed that the ladies were wearing the colonial clothing. Which makes sense.
Yeah, that could also be like a shtick that the inn does, but I'm assuming she talked to Barbara and Barbara was like, nope.
Yes. So Barbara said that the guest specifically said to her, it's really cool that you have them dress up in costumes, but they came in like a little early.
And she was probably like, yeah.
No. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Glad you enjoyed your stay. So that was a really crazy story. And I think it's interesting because just the concept of actually seeing someone and having them interact with you a little bit.
Yeah.
It's creepy.
That's one of the most intense manifestations I think we've had of a ghost.
Right.
Like, I can't think of another one where they interact that fully.
Right, and like actually start performing tasks and didn't really disappear.
That's freaky.
Yes. So again, in the beginning of Barbara and Joe taking over this inn, her two sisters would actually help her clean while she was at her other job. So they had bought this inn, still working, so her two sisters would help clean during the day. And one of the craziest things happened in the attic. So one of her sisters was vacuuming, and she hears a voice say, turn it off now, and felt a pressure on her arm.
My gosh.
And she thought it was her other sister.
Right.
Like, she thought it was her other sister coming up. So she turned around and no one was there. And so she's like, I guess she came in, told me to turn it off, and went downstairs.
Right, but if you felt a pressure on your arm and didn't see someone pushing on you...
Right.
That's freaky.
So then she goes down the stairs expecting to see her sister because, again, she felt that pressure. And her sister was 2 flights down in the kitchen.
Oh my gosh.
Which is terrifying.
Did they keep helping out? I feel like that's a good sister. If they're like, we'll keep cleaning despite the fact that it's obviously haunted.
So they did, actually. Barbara said that they did keep cleaning the house, but they never went anywhere separately again.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. It was always the 2 of them, especially in that attic.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, there's mist sometimes in photos, and one of the pictures that they took of the renovations came back with like a huge mist, like the biggest mist I've seen, over half of the photo. I mean, it has to be a presence or something there. Because like I said, it was like not on the photo, not from the camera. It was like in the photo.
Yeah.
So those are the stories from Barbara. And then there was also the investigator that kind of walked around the hotel, which was interesting, but I kind of took her testimony with a grain of salt.
Barbara?
No.
Oh, the investigator.
Yes. So the owner, Barbara, said that the paranormal investigator was extremely respectful towards the ghost compared to others who have visited. So Barb actually did feel the ambiance of spirits in the house more than she did regularly.
Oh, interesting.
So she thinks that the paranormal investigator, because of the kind things that she was saying, because of the fact that she was respecting them, actually brought them out, which is great. But then at one point, the investigator was in the living room, and she kind of just pointed to the corner and was like, that's Teresa. There's a ghost named Teresa there. But then no one ever confirmed if, like, Teresa was part of the founding family, if she worked there. Like, it was just like, Teresa. And I was like, who's Teresa?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I could say that.
Exactly. So I was like, I'm not really sure. And then they zoomed in on the corner that she had pointed to Teresa. And she said that, like, you could see some very subtle changes in light, but there was no other real thing. So
that could be for many reasons.
Exactly. However, when the paranormal investigator took a picture of one of the bedroom closets, so now she's upstairs, the picture showed a ghostly outline of the face of a man with a beard.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. And then the craziest part was Barb started going back through old photos that she had taken, and she found the same outline of the face in one of the pictures that she'd taken in the living room.
Oh my gosh. So it's roaming.
Yes.
That's
and
freaky.
Like clearly the same. You know
That's
what I
freaky.
mean?
Yeah.
So that was interesting. And the investigator kind of shined a light and had taken a video of one of the documents that was hanging up in one of the rooms. I couldn't get a sense of what room it was in, but there's a gray outline kind of an elderly man. And she said that she felt a presence in that room. It also looked like it could have just been a stain.
Yeah.
So another thing that I was like, it could be this.
Yeah.
It could be, that she's really feeling this. But the picture, I think, was the biggest thing that she had pulled from the investigation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was really the America's Haunted Inn documentary. I really liked that one because of the stories that Barbara told. Because I felt like she really was able to talk about all of her experiences.
Yeah.
Which was awesome. So moving on to the Delmarva Historic Haunts investigation. They really set up their video methodically. So they did a walkthrough with Barbara just in the daytime to ask, like, what happened here, what happened there. And they set their cameras up based on the testimony that she had given. Cool.
Yeah.
Yes. So remember I was saying that there was an upstairs bar area?
Yeah.
They actually set up a camera facing a glass of whiskey.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Just to see if anything happens.
Yeah.
That's smart.
So they set up the whiskey on this like little shelf and put the camera facing towards that. And then in the gold room, Barb mentioned that the dog statues that were on the mantle had been turned around at some point, so she just came in the room and the faces were facing the wall.
It's such weird things like that I'm like, why? You know?
Yes. It's really interesting, and it seems to not have like a point.
Right.
But to them, they're probably doing the most that they can.
Maybe that's it, yeah.
You know? So they set up the camera in the gold room facing the mantle, which makes sense. And then in the blue room, objects have been moved around in this room, and not just like randomly. They've taken objects and placed them in semicircles around the fireplace.
That's strange. I wonder why.
To me, when I saw that in the documentary, like not the actual, but when they said that, it almost seemed like someone was doing a ritual or something.
That's freaky.
Yeah. And I don't know, I don't know if it's like an evil ritual or what, but
right.
It was like kind of crazy. I was like in a semicircle.
Yeah.
So they set up the camera by the fireplace.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. And then they set up the camera in the attic facing the cabinets because this was called the apparition room. So a full body was seen at the cabinets, like in the kitchen.
That is creepy.
Yeah. And that's where the vacuum story happened, where somebody said, turn it off.
Oh, yeah.
So they set that. And then the sitting room camera was just facing the fireplace and the windows. That's where the original investigator back from the America's Haunted Inn documentary had seen Teresa, man. Yes. So they did that. And then the dining room camera is facing the door towards the rest of the house. There were lots of reports of mist in that room.
It's cool that they did it so personalized.
Yes, and I really liked the video because they went through each thing. They had 6 cameras set up, so it was super cool. Then, once they do this walkthrough, they set up these cameras. That's when they stopped recording, turned everything off, and waited for night to come, of course. So, I could not find... They didn't have a website. Their YouTube video didn't really discuss it, but... I don't know that they caught anything on camera. It wasn't really stated in the video.
Yeah.
And so I'm assuming no. But the EMF levels and the EVP readings were off the charts.
So something's there. They just can't see it.
Yes. So in the bar area, they went up with EVP or EMF. And they had level like 5. I don't know... By the way, if that's like the scientific thing, but in Phasmophobia,
yeah. I know that. I'm like, oh man, that's the top.
Yeah, it was all the way going, and they answered questions by like,
with one of those like light boxes or whatever.
No, the EMF reader would go off.
Oh,
like when they were like say, so someone said like, "Are you happy that we gave you a cookie?" and it went off.
Oh my god.
Or. Do you like drinking out of a mason jar every now and then? And it went off.
That's funny.
Because it's a bar area. So that was really cool. And the EMFs all around the house were kind of going off when they were talking to it. And then in the kitchen area of the house, they would ask more questions. So the EVP now, that's when they ask a question and it's like tap once for yes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And tap twice for no. And so the person that they were talking to, they said, do you live here? It was nothing. And then, were you a guest here? Yes. Did you work here? Yes. So, I wonder if it's 2 different people coming through.
Yeah.
Or if they were a guest here and also worked here.
Yeah, maybe it just means guest as in, like, a guest in the building. Like, they didn't live there.
Exactly. And then another ghost with the EVP readings confirmed that they liked being in Barb's kitchen.
Aw, that's cute.
Yes. So during the middle of the video, they showed the EMF and the EVP readings as they were happening. At the end, they kind of went around to discuss other things that they had found. So they smelled pipe tobacco throughout the house, even though no one was smoking. But the smells were also heavily in the area near the EMF reader, so up in the bar.
Okay, that makes sense. And that would make sense for a bar.
Yes, exactly. And then 2 investigators said that they had a conversation with a young lady up in the attic who was age 19, and she had a younger sibling or a daughter with her. But there was no...
recording.
Yeah, no like evidence of the conversation or anything. One of the other investigators heard a man's voice, so they thought that it was male investigators in the group, but no one was near them or within earshot, so they wouldn't have been able to make the noise.
What did it say, or did it not specify?
they couldn't make it out. So
Yeah.
in the video when they were talking about it, they said that it was muffled. And so, like I said before, it seems like they didn't get a lot of information from the cameras that they set up, or didn't really see anything move. So most of the night was just EMF EVP readings, which I think is still cool. And it's possible that the ghosts are like moving things or showing up, like the maids, for instance, running on a tape.
Right.
They're only going to show up at certain times.
Yeah, that makes sense, actually.
So I was thinking like the EMF EVP readings are actually really cool because they're like communicating with them even if they're not showing up on camera
Right.
at that moment.
Yeah, and I feel like we've talked about other times ghosts not wanting to be seen on camera. So that could be the case too. Like, I don't know. I've never been a ghost, obviously. I don't know if they can like control when they make themselves visible or not, you know? So maybe they're
True.
just like moving around and existing, but they don't want to be captured.
Yes, which is also understandable.
Yeah.
I mean, the vacuum thing reminded me again of the technology where like ghosts are kind of freaked out when they see new technology because they're
Right.
like, what is that?
Yeah.
Like, what is this thing in my house?
Like, what is this sorcery?
Yes. So yeah, it seems like most of them are very like kind and just kind of there hanging out at the bar or
Yeah.
hanging around the house. I would definitely go. We actually, Zach and I, my partner, tried to go when I was back home towards Allentown this weekend, but the place has closed down.
That's sad.
So yeah, we even thought about going to try to take a picture, but because they closed down, we were like, we don't really know what's there.
Yeah.
So we'll just like leave it be.
Yeah.
But I definitely would. If it was still around, I wanted to go inside and talk to Barb because it's just her and Joe. It was just her and Joe working there.
Yeah. And it sounds like a cool place, like just bar ghosts, you know? And it really does sound like it's a positive place where so many of the places we talk about have like death and dying, and that's why they're haunted. It almost sounds like the spirits that are in this inn want to be there.
Yeah.
You know, like hanging out at the bar. So I would have gone if it was open. But
Yes.
that's sad that it's not.
I think even at night,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think it would have been cool. And I definitely would have wanted to stay in the rooms and see if anyone came in the morning.
Yeah, but I feel like I wouldn't sleep. I would just like sit there ready, not even in my pajamas, in case someone walked in.
It's like the meme of that woman on the bed and like all dressed up and ready to go.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, that is the story about the Bucksville House Inn in Kindersville, Pennsylvania. Tune in next week to see where we go next.